Hello and welcome back. My name is Marilyn Harder. I'm a Pilates instructor and Pilates master trainer. This is part 2 of our series in perfecting your plank. Part 1, we covered wrist and elbow modifications. In part 2, we're going to talk through modifications within our feet, knees, hip, back, and shoulders, which seems like a pretty heavy topic for one video. The first thing I want to speak to is shoulder modifications. So oftentimes shoulders or scapula in our mid-back tend to hollow or cave or wing in our planks. So let me just give you a quick visual. Instead of laying flat down on our backs like this, I can usually get my right scapula to wing. Let's see. I've learned to connect it so there's hope. There. So you do see how that scapula ridge sort of pulls away from the body. And this is not nearly as bad as it used to be. And I can quickly activate and close that back down. But I've had to learn that over time. So when our scapula are in the wrong place or they're not laying flush against our back, we essentially lose all the strength of our shoulder girdle. Our shoulder girdle is basically an ice cream cone and 2 toothpicks, which are the connections of the collarbone, without the activation of the whole scapula, the shoulder blade. So when we activate down that shoulder blade, we're able to really connect through that stabilization within the shoulder. So what can we do if those shoulder blades are winging open? Well, we want to work on the baseline strength of that mid-back. We're working 2 muscles. Number 1 is rhomboids, and number 2, which is the overlay muscle. So rhomboids are deeper. Overlay muscle would be our mid-traps. So anything that is a row, where you're rowing against resistance and squeezing the shoulder blades together, will work that. My other favorite exercise that you can do at home with a TheraBand or in your studio at the springboard is the snow angel. So you want to step really close to the door anchor, and I'll show you the snow angel in another video. And we're pressing down, trying to anchor our scapula in space. So I will take a video and I will do one with the door set up for our standing snow angel. All right, so our next modification then is going to be our low back modification. Oftentimes we feel planks heavily within our low back when we're not connecting correctly. So that would be when we are in our planks and we're popping the ribs or arching our low back. So training that, we want to train that in a kneeling position, as long as kneeling is good for you, or you can train it in a standing position in a wall plank. And you want to organize your body and imagine that you're like a snowman. Your hips or your pelvic bowl is your bottom ball of the snowman. The ribs and the shoulders are the second ball of the snowman, and your head's got to sit right on top. So I'm going to place one hand on the front part of my pelvis, one hand on my SI joint, and you can see how they're sloped in a diagonal. This is my default position when I'm just releasing and relaxing. So in that default position, if I put this in a plank, there would be a lot of load on my low back. So I want you to think about trying to make these lines point straight towards the floor. So I'm going to do a little tilt. I'm going to draw up through the abdominals, and then I'm using my deep lower rectus abdominis all the way up to my rib cage, and then I'm going to drop a heavy weight from my tailbone to the floor, activating the glute fold, the gluteus maximus, and I'm trying to use my Pilates breath to sandwich that in space. The more that you can connect the hamstring glute fold muscles and the deep lower abdominals, the friendlier the plank becomes. So, exercises we could do. If you tuned into some of my MAP series, the single leg kick, where we were doing the activation of the hamstring, maintaining that pelvic bowl, and resisting with the quad, heel towards the buns, flexing to make it deeper, and pointing to reach away. That will build the hamstring. For the lower abdominals, we want our toe taps. And remember, tune into my videos for better quality examples. But just as a reminder, toe taps, imprint, knees and tabletop, neutral if you've advanced the work, and we're hinging at the knee, or sorry, at the hip, keeping the knee stable, really focusing on the deep ab work. And then toe taps, and that single leg kick will really build up that support for that complex. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and talk about knees. If you are a hyperextender like I am, sometimes in the plank we bottom out. So if you're a hyperextender, softening your knees is not the answer. The answer is finding the co-contraction between that hamstring and the quad. One of the things, or the mistakes I made in the beginning as a Pilates instructor and a student, was to tell my hyperextenders to soften their knees. Softening your knees activates nothing, right? So we want to think about activating the back side of the leg in addition to the front side of the leg. So here I'm going to engage the abdominals, drop the tailbone, find the glute fold and the hamstrings, and right now I can feel my hamstring on. My quad jumped in to join the party, and I find the straightest knee as I can get without losing that hamstring. That's the co-connection that you're looking for in your plank. The second you lose the hamstring, you're probably in the back of your knees. The last and final modification I want to talk about is toes. So sometimes we have things like a bunion or fused toes, a broken toe, something to that nature that causes pain or discomfort. One of the first ones you could do would be more of an elevated plank where you're putting less pressure. So I showed that elevated plank in my last video, wrist and elbow modifications. However, you could also use a knee plank. I find though that knee planks are often really challenging for organizing everything because you don't have all of the muscles of the lower half of the leg to connect, right? So you're really trying to unload through those toes, but are you getting all the benefits? You can use something to elevate so that way you're more on the ball of the foot and not putting pressure on the toe junction. So I like a box, something that's pushed all the way up in the wall so it won't scooch away. So let me do that just for good form and posterity. And you can use this in that plank. So I'm going to organize here by pressing through those hands, finding the carpal arch, stepping one foot back, and I've got the ball of the foot, my toes are free, and then the other. And now I'm in that nice solid plank, finding my tug of war, hamstrings, glutes, tailbone, abdominals, ribs, shoulder blades back and down, and now I'm reaching in opposition, head in one direction, heels the other. All right, that went ahead and wrapped up all the modifications I have for you today, and see me in session number 3 where we go for the full plank.